Let's move on to our fourth main topic today. And our fourth main topic today gets sent in to us by Aaron Antofel, who writes, "Hi, John. One of my all-time favorite comedies is Wedding Crashers. You and me both, Aaron. I saw on Twitter today that the director is saying that a sequel is still possible and could look at the guys now in their late 40s and having to go back into the dating scene. What would you think about a Wedding Crashers sequel, or is it too late for it?" All right, thanks a lot for sending that in. And listen, this represents one of the best close eras of comedies ever. Because I can't remember the exact dates. I didn't look it up. Maybe, Aaron, you could look it up. But
I shall look it up right now.
It feels like Wedding Crashers and 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Mm-hmm.
I think they came out within the same year of each other. I think they came out like within a year. And those are like 40-Year-Old Virgin is my all-time favorite comedy.
2005. They both came out the same year.
2005.
Mm-hmm.
I remember them and just thinking, like, does it get better than this? And you know, the original Anchorman wasn't too far separated from that either. It was a great era for comedies. Wedding Crashers is one of the great ones, and it introduced the world to the game of Let's Play Just the Tip. And for that alone, we all owe this movie a huge debt of gratitude. The movie was absolutely hilarious. And not only did you have Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson, but you had, Isla Fisher, who a lot of people have never even heard of before. Rachel McAdams, who was just starting to become this really big star.
It really made a lot of people pop. Oh, yeah, Bradley Cooper.
People forget Bradley Cooper was in that. He was the idiot, brother-in-law sort of thing. I mean, it just a whole lot was going for it. Well, now, there's word. There was an interview just done recently with the director of that film, David Dobkin, and he was asked about the possibility of it. And he was talking about how, me, Owen, Vince, we've talked about it. We never really saw a need to go back to it and all that kind of stuff. Everybody keeps asking us to do it. And we keep saying no. But anyway, then he said the following. He goes, 10 years later, after, the originally being asked about it, when I was asked again and I hung up the phone after saying no, I thought about it. And I'm like, well, I'd be curious what it would be like for guys in their 40s who end up being single again and have to go back out in the world. What a weird, difficult, challenging story that is. And as long as there's a real story in the middle of it, to me, it can be a movie. Now, he also went on to imply that there's a script written, that he doesn't think the script is quite there yet, and that Owen and Vince haven't read that script yet, but he says it's coming along, it's there. So he's just throwing out there that the possibility for them to do another Wedding Crashers is absolutely there. I have two different sets of feelings about this. The one feeling I have about it is, oh my God, yes. Oh my God, yes. I desperately would love to see this again, because just kind of like, we're talking about The Hitman's Bodyguard. Mm-hmm. Just like The Hitman's Bodyguard, I almost don't care what the story is, because I just love these two characters together. Not necessarily these two actors, because they did that one called, what was that, where they worked
at Google, yeah.
Or a Google-like company.
Interns
or
something like that. They were,
or something along those lines. Mm-hmm. Not good. But these two, as these characters, and their dynamic as these characters, to me is just absolute money. And by the way, quick little Vince Vaughn story.
You're so money, baby.
Vince Vaughn. The first time I met Vince Vaughn, he came into our offices when my office was still at the AMC Theaters in AMC Burbank. He came in for like 2 hours because he was doing this movie called The Delivery Man with Chris Pratt. And him and Chris Pratt came into my office for like 2 hours. We did a big interview about it. And then they did this like Twitter live Q&A from my office for like another hour. And the guys just hung out and they were hilarious and wonderful, and got to meet Vince and had a really good time and all that kind of stuff. Fast forward like 2 years, Anne was still working at Hasbro, and they had a work conference at a hotel in Santa Monica or something like that. Mm-hmm. And there, she's in the foyer of the hotel, and she's standing with some of her workmates from Hasbro, and she hears a voice, Anne! And they look over, and it's Vince Vaughn. Vince Vaughn, who was like a year or two earlier, maybe about a year earlier, had talked to Anne for like a half hour. Mm-hmm. He is considerate enough and attentive enough Because I'll be honest with you, I things go in one ear out the other for me. I meet somebody, I'll forget their name 10 minutes later, not because I didn't care, but because I just forget their names, right? This was like a year later. Vince Vaughn, who doesn't have to say shit, who doesn't have to care about the people he's talking to right now if he didn't want to. Like a year later in a random hotel lobby, Anne. First of all, made Anne look like a superstar in front of her Hasbro. Like all of her Hasbro
oh my gosh,
coworkers like, how do you know Vince Vaughn? And he said, one of the nicest, classiest moves ever. So I will be a Vince Vaughn fan for life because of that. Chris Pratt did something similar. But anyway, super nice guy. Couldn't have been nicer. All this kind of stuff. I'd love to see these two guys together again doing another Wedding Crashers. I really would. I hate the idea, though. Because, I'm sorry, I went through Wedding Crashers, and it was about Owen Wilson and Rachel McAdams ending up together. And you know what? The Isla Fisher and Vince Vaughn one, I can see that because it's so volcanic. Erratic, yes. So I could see, maybe after about 10 years, that relationship didn't work out. Okay, I could see.
The fun wore off and then
but
reality.
I don't want to go back to Wedding Crashers if Owen and Rachel aren't still together. That made my heart sad.
Right.
Just reading that made my heart sad.
Yeah.
And I don't like the concept is really cool about a couple guys in their late 40s who are suddenly single again, back into the dating scene, particularly these two characters. There's something interesting there, but I'm not going to lie. I'm too invested in the idea that they're not together anymore. Makes my heart sad. Anyway, as far as is it too late? I don't think it's too late. We're seeing more and more movies with making returns to their franchises. We saw it with Creed. We see it with Star Wars. We see it with like everything. I don't think that's too late. These are still Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn are still two very relevant names. Almost everybody remembers this movie very, very fondly. I think you could do it. And with Bad Boys for Life, just doing the business it did, you can do it. I'm torn. I don't know. Aaron, you hear about this. Would it be a good idea to go back to Wedding Crashers again, and would you be interested?
So the thing that gives me hope about this is that the director says, if there's a story there, that he's already saying, let's talk about the story, and based on what the story is, then let's investigate that. And I do think that there's my initial reaction to this was a little bit of revulsion because spending my 20s in Los Angeles, there's just the whole dudes in their late 40s, trolling for 22-year-old girls. It just like, in theory,
the
for
word
some
you're looking
guys,
for is awesome.
See, that's the thing. That's the perception. But like,
no, it's not. No, that's not. We know that's creepy as hell. Like,
it's fucking gross. And here's the thing. Like, I know those guys. I'm friends with some of those guys. They either never got married or they got divorced or like they made a ton of money and all of a sudden like their option of the attractiveness or whatever physical qualities of the women that they could date all of a sudden changed. And most of my friends who were in that world, their Facebooks are all like, look at, bottles and models and boats and
bottles and models.
I mean, but they are miserable people at the end of the day. They're miserable. Their Facebook looks really exciting. They are miserable. And so I guess knowing that, like, I don't want to see Owen Wilson, like, I want to see them trying to go back and date, but like dating women in their 30s. I don't want to see them trying to date girls who are like going to their sorority meetings the next day. So if you're gonna, you
don't want to see Owen Wilson trying to hook up with Ariana Grande or whatever.
Ariana Grande, yeah. So if she is young enough to be their daughter, let's not go there because it's just creepy and it's gross. Now, that being said, I love the idea of people, these two characters who are newly single, who are all of a sudden having to figure out the difference between like, I don't know, Hinge and Grindr or whatever, like I don't know what the new dating app is. Back in my day, it was Tinder. But, a lot of things have changed, not just about the way that people meet one another on apps versus like in person at bars, at restaurants, whatever, but also just just the way that people interact now, the prevalence of porn making a lot of people asexual. That's like a thing now, is people are just like, I just like, apparently I've been reading these reports that like people are having less and less and less sex than they ever have in the history of the world. People are too busy watching YouTube. It's like, and so it would be very interesting. And also, how do they navigate in a post-Me Too world? Dating's very different now than it was even 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And so for these guys who were so blatantly, overtly sexual and flirtatious, it would be very interesting to see how they navigate that and what's okay and what's not okay and what gets me slapped and doesn't get me slapped. And, it would be very, and given their sort of naive, sweet but dopey mentality about it, I think that it could be really fun. But I agree with you. It has to still have that heart to it. And Wedding Crashers, it wasn't just about, lower back tattoo might as well be a bullseye. There's lots of great one-liners like that. But the real thing was, at the end of the day, the story had heart.
Yeah.
You were rooting for them to get together.
That's how it's similar to 40-Year-Old Virgin. And that's why I adored both those movies.
And that's
so
why
much.
the movies worked. Because if it's just about gimmick and it's just about a concept, yeah, it'll be like, but it's not going to be a movie that you can watch over and over again. It's got to be like Pretty Woman. If it was just about, a hooker and a John, that's not a story.
Right.
But it was a love story. You really rooted for them. So it didn't matter what she did or, what he did. Wedding Crashers, it didn't matter that they were, both kind of scummy and slept around a bunch, because there was a heart to it. So I love the fact that they're investigating this, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the story is.
What I just don't want to see is them to regress and go, because part of the whole evolution of Wedding Crashers was they went from just, let's get out there and just and party it up. And there's a great line, actually, one of my favorite lines in the movie. They just finished their wedding crashing season, and they're sitting on, I think they're in Washington, they're sitting on the steps of one of the big buildings. And we're just a couple of young guys doing crazy things. And Owen Wilson says, we're not that young. And that was back in 2005.
That was 15 years ago.
And it was about them progressing from just that to wanting something deeper and wanting something more meaningful. What I don't want to see if they do another Wedding Crashers is now revert completely back to what it was. And then the whole movie is again about them. Oh, maybe I want something deeper. We already went through that.
I feel like it would actually be the reverse, that they have then seen that there is something deeper. And so then they go back out to the dating world wanting to connect with people and realizing, yes, because that's the thing, is like Tom and I will get into an argument and I'm like, I'm fucking done with him. I am a little emotional sometimes. I say things that I don't mean. But I have some friends that are potentially going through a divorce right now, and Tom and I just go, oh God, it's so awful out there. Why would people want to go back? Why would you want to go back to that? I think that if they go, that's actually a really good point. They go back out into the dating world knowing how fulfilling and great something deep can be.
Right.
And they're looking for that, but everyone around them, all the women around them, are super.
The roles have now reversed.
Totally. Yeah.
All right. Question here is, guys, what do you think about the idea of the possibility of going back to a Wedding Crashers? Maybe you're kind of of the opinion of, you know what? That first movie is perfect. Leave it alone. Maybe you're thinking, God, I would love to revisit these guys again. Maybe you're thinking like, man, maybe it's too late. Maybe it's not. How do you guys feel about it? Jump into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys.